Couple of good opening shots. A lot of the control already over there in favor of Freeze God. Kill on to Cool, and that's going to cause a lot of distress for them. A beautiful flashbang triple kill for Freeze God. Not PS1, who is pretty much just second only to the Bomb King right now. It's definitely not looking good.
Wow, Respect Team triple kill and Carnage Gaming. First going to leave Crimson back on the point. Finally, Tuga falls. One last shot onto Amadeus, and Scooter will find the double. What a dream start here for Carnage Gaming, a triple kill. But you gotta be kidding me on that.
Developed, we've already started the action low in the backline. Is this Vivian? It's so important that she survives, but instead it's a double. The other direction is 2-2 steps on the gas, a triple kill. And they lose bulk. I just talked about how critical he was going to be. Those are two huge bounties to find, but Fish Echo answers back with a triple kill for D69, making a full team wipe.
Testing the point, but a lot of damage coming out even after that assert. Kills are still going to Celestial.
Paladins Nixus does make their way back in and at least get the kill into close up, but now it's a quadra slop starting to rip through the map.
You still have two ultimates up on the side of Sanguine, Headhunter, and the Cursed Armor ready, but Headhunter already busy hunting heads. Not one, but two, but three!
Comes up and Tea Party have to run.
They do have to fall back. That's a bunch of kills there from Flame.
But suddenly Rubu falls. Now there's an Inflame to just help out the remaining members of Team Project.
Hey there, Paladins fans, and welcome in to the Paladins Pro Circuit Summer Finals. Aggro joined by Kresnik here to kick it off, and we're going to have a fantastic event all weekend long. We want to make sure that we know exactly what you guys are doing and how you're watching the Paladins Pro Circuit Summer Finals. So make sure you're tweeting at Paladins Pro with hashtag PPC. Maybe a couple pets in there. Here's a little bit of a tip for you watching at home. If you have a pet and you put it on your lap and you show yourself watching the screen, we will put you on broadcast. It is very, very simple. We're all pet lovers here. A little bit of a tip for you there. But Kresnik, it's finally here, the Summer Finals. We finally get a chance to see who's the best Paladins team right now, not just in your region, but across the whole world.
And this is something we've been talking about basically the whole season. You know, these top teams in the region's like, oh yeah, they're great in Brazil. What's it going to look like when they play NA? EU, are they the best region? We're never going to know until they get to play against them. This is always the time of the year for Paladins when it was online and having those tournaments where they all finally get together that I look forward to the most. I want to see what the LAN meta ends up being. I want to see what these teams pull out, what they've had hidden in the pocket this whole year all the way up until now.
And we get a chance to see Corvus as well, the newest character joining Paladins, so that should be a lot of fun. We're going to kick it off today with Team Project up against Carnage Gaming. Team Project, certainly one of those teams that we expect to see go very, very deep into this tournament just based on name power alone, but that Sanguine team is the one sitting there with the bye coming out of North America, so Project not necessarily where we expected them to start off the tournament.
Project, yeah, for second seed, definitely not what people expected from the start, but they've been to these tournaments before. This is online, but they've had the pressure. A lot of the players on Sanguine, other than some of the PCL veterans, maybe haven't had that. It could give them an edge, but Carnage also has veterans on the other side, so even with that backing them, it won't be that easy for Project.
Yeah, let's actually start with Carnage here, the team that Project is going up against, because this is a team that has a lot of recognizable names as well. It's not like Project is the only one that has some name power on their side. But what do you see from this Carnage Gaming team that you think they should lean on today?
I think the DPS play has to be very strong for them, and I think it has been throughout, and it's what kept them kind of near the top every time they had those close contested games. It was Aspexy, it was Ares, really just kind of bringing it to another level. Aspexy pulling out some of these picks that maybe we weren't seeing from other people. Shaolin, a character that kind of fell off. Aspexy said, I can play that. I can make that work. Easy. And then he pulls out Sandtrap. Shaw almost goes on an annihilation, if I remember correctly, in game. So having the ability to pull out flex picks like that and just outperform the counterparts on the other side, which I think they have the capability of doing.
Yeah, I think that this is a team in Carnage that you have to look to some of those veterans on their side, right up going up against some of the great veterans that you see on the side of Team Project. Ares, Gervin, guys like that have to try and step up today if they want to find the win.
Yeah, players that have been playing for a long time in their region and some of them now with a chance to shine. But watching some footage of Gervin, he's been playing for forever. I will say I mispronounced his name for about a year and a half, but once I was with SSG, they did correct me. I've been saying Govern for the longest time, but he's really shown his flexibility now. Now that these brilliant teams really have this chance, I think playing all the DPS roles, tank roles, now that we're in this meta where you can kind of do whatever the word flex, meaning flex more than ever before, we've seen a lot from him, and flexibility in draft will help him significantly going up against Project, because Project have been kind of one-dimensional in terms of composition for pretty much the whole season.
Yeah, when we were doing our prep work before this and talking about what we expected from these teams, you mentioned that Project usually plays the pretty standard stuff. You know, they're picking what you can expect a team that's good to be picking. Do you think that will hurt them today? It
could, depending on how far they get, what teams they end up going against, right? I think against the EU, super flexible teams do whatever they want. They're going to get counter-drafted, and they're going to have to find a way to adapt to that. Again, against the teams that maybe are going to also be in their same lane, it could help. That's consistency. If they're not experimenting and the other teams are trying something out that they haven't practiced as much, it could hurt them. But Europe, I think, flexible enough to deal with it. Brazil might not be able to.
That's what NA is at least hoping for here in their first round matchup. And guys like Cuss, when healers are so strong right now, you expect to be able to really step up. Do you think Cuss is the type of dude to be pulling out Corvus pretty early here? Or do you expect him to stick to what he knows?
I think he's going to play around his comfort zone. I just don't know how much time Cuss has put into Corvus. Really, he's been around for a while, but people were kind of writing him off at first. I think Cuss has played for so long. He can stick to those comforts. He can stick to the Damba. He can play the Furia. Surely, if Io gets through the draft, he's going to be playing her as well. But I don't know if he put in the time into that Corvus to have it ready, considering how complex of a healer he can be.
That's just one of those things that you're talking about land meta that can develop. I think that these characters, that the newest character to the game in Corvus, that's the type of thing that I'm always looking for in situations like this. Will he be undervalued by some teams and maybe turn out to be a very strong pick, or overvalued and turn out to be a little bit weaker? That remains to be seen, and that's why we're excited to get things kicked off here pretty soon. Let's take a look at see what we've got for the map. It's going to be Stone Cape up first. Bazaar and Fish Market banned by Team Project. Brightmarsh and Splitstone Quarry by Carnage Gaming. Any surprises on the map bans here, Kresnik?
A little sad that Brightmarsh is banned. I think that's a map that people think is kind of standard. Jaguar Falls also not being banned means that Carnage don't have anything against the close-range cluttered maps. They just specifically don't like Brightmarsh. Happy to see Fish and Bazaar gone from Project. I think those really wide maps where they can struggle against hit scans could be something they struggle with. They want to get rid of it, go to a more standard map like Stone Keep.
Well, let's see what happens in the picks and bans here for the very standard Stone Keep start off. Io, you mentioned, is one champion that you expect to be banned pretty much every game, but it seems like there was some flexibility in some of the bans as well. A lot of off-tank frontliners getting taken away, but not always the exact same ones.
Yeah, and ROM going early for Project is kind of their target, I would say, towards the Brazilian region. They're the ones that kind of stuck with ROM for the longest time, pressuring or valuing that pressure into the back line, being able to make people turn around and force focus so you can pressure the rest of your team forward. With ROM being gone, Team Project, they don't have to focus on drafting a CC counter. They can maybe go a little more CC light, focus on damage, and overwhelm Carnage that way.
So now Androx is taken off the board as well. So now Carnage Gaming, we're all kind of expecting the Io ban with how dominant that pick has been throughout the first half of the year, but it won't be an Io ban, and it's Strix instead. Be pretty surprised, as you mentioned, if Cuss doesn't snap up that Io right away, but it looks like they might not. Ash being hovered, what do you make of this development where Io has not been prioritized so far?
Confidence, I guess, from Project. They don't expect Carnage to play it well enough for them to deal with it. And some teams think that aggression can be the answer. Ash is one way to do that. She can cross such a large distance. She can bully a backline without really being able to be answered unless a DPS rotates back. Just put the shield between you and the support. They can't answer what you're doing. You're going to be harassing them the whole time. Force an answer from them. And you can also dive way past everybody into that backline. Barika's response is a little curious for me as well. I know a lot of people have been talking about how high value Inara can be right now. People are calling her the best tank over all else, but Carnage seems like a comfort pick to me, but they at least end up with that high win rate IO.
Yeah, that's something that you like to see, but normally the type of character that Inara wants to be. Just sit on the point and wait around for the healing to come to you. Feel like that could synergize pretty well with IO, but not the decision here by Carnage. Eevee picked up something that can get into that back line. Do you think that this is the type of pick where Project was trying to bait Carnage into picking the IO and then going with something like the Eevee to try and counter it?
I think so. The double aggression Ashe Eevee can dive straight into the back line, and Inara sitting in the back, stopping them from wrapping around. Just keep Inara on the off lane to peel, potentially, not let them walk into their support, whoever it ends up being by the end of the draft. But Inara's not going to be able to stop this Buck, even with that Ashe Eevee dive. If the IO can live with whoever they have as an off-tank or as a peel force for Carnage, might be Shaolin with that AoE cripple or the silence arrow, whatever way he decides to go, they might not be able to stop that Buck from going in and bullying the backline. Project's going to need a support that can really stand on its own two legs.
And that's what Cuss is going to be looking for here with the last two picks coming through from Project. You mentioned that Shaolin pick from Carnage, so I'm excited to see it happen. Grover is the pickup here. Is that the type of support that can stand on... he kind of walks on like 3 and throws the axe with the other hand, I guess. Is that what you were looking for?
It's a lot of support, right? You have that extra, the arm on the ground to keep him up. But yeah, the root is pretty much going to be the answer to that Buck and the Sha. If they want to get aggressive, root them vying away. That Dredge answered a lot of questions I had about this IO. I have been pushing this Dredge pick for the longest time against IO. He has a cooldown that gets affected by Bulldozer. You throw the broadside onto the point. You can't move Luna fast enough. It blows up, deletes Luna from the game. Counter pick, love to see it out of Project, and they clearly came prepared for this tournament.
And the Barrack pick also gets kind of destroyed by that Bulldozer, right? So I feel like Project pulling out the Dredge right at the right time. Victor to round out the draft, though, for Carnage. Is that the type of DPS that can maybe take care of this Dredge?
It can do some damage to him, but Dredge has so much lifesteal from long range. If whoever's playing the Dredge on the side of Project, if they have the right build, if they come in and hit their harpoons, I don't know if Carnage can turn it around.
Well, Project going to look to kick off the summer finals with a win with their counter pick draft. We'll see if they can do it. Let's throw it down to the casters to get us started.
Always appreciated aggro. Kresnik as well. It is Dolson and Gormizer on the call for game number 1 of the Paladins Pro Circuit Summer Finals. Team Project versus Carnage Gaming, Gore. And if you win this one, your grand prize is a matchup against Parallax later today. How excited are you to get this one kicked off?
Man, I am incredibly excited. I think this is a really good matchup to start things off with, right? You get the number 2 from Brazil and the number 2 from NA, but there's so many big names that we've seen go against each other in the past. And, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't expect to come into the summer finals with a Dredge in the first game either, so I think that ramps it up to the next level. Then you get to see it next to Rock Monkey. I actually don't know where life is right now. I am maybe overflowing with excitement.
And a Turtle Dredge, something I know Kresnik is maybe the biggest proponent of Dredge here at the moment. So big things expected for Rock Monkey here on Stone Keep. Dredge is such an interesting pick, though, Gore. I mean, it's sort of the Ice Mines Frog Isle every once in a while, but now we're going to get to see it here on Stone Keep.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for not only Rock Monkey, but this Dredge? Where do you see this performance?
Well, it is very much what Kresnik had just highlighted, right? It is the space denial. You can't stand on the point, which goes doubly there for Luna out of Io's kit. But it does depend on where he wants to take that control, right? Over here on the high ground means he can't get up there. If you're Victor, you can't find that safe spot to be able to just pelt damage from the long run. And because of that, they own Keep right now.
Yeah, Carnage Gaming have responded in kind. They're down to the low ground. Goes the red side of things. Hero's going to toss up the wall, move himself down to the point. It's him versus Luna for point contention at the moment. A little overextended. Hero's the Barrack. Shadow and G-Bunny, though, both going down. Great trades for Carnage Gaming as Scooter picks up a couple, and it's 81% for Carnage. Gore Project, they have to fight back in.
Yeah, they're trying to lock him down. I think Rock Monkey, it's this really weird position right now where he's the one who can box it in, but with Hero with Cuss Gun, I mean, who do you send to the point? I guess Ashe, but I don't know if she's going to be able to last long enough.
Well, Luna is down, but just one final touch for Carnage Gaming will be the first point here in this set up against Team Project, and they've got a decent little stagger out on the back end. 4 members of Team Project left alive, and it really seemed like on that mid-fight, Gore, yeah, the high ground was under the control of Rock Monkey and this Dredge, but Carnage just kind of said, okay, we'll fight down on the low ground and work ourselves in. Scooter on this Buck, wreaking havoc. Project just couldn't fight in onto the point.
That's what I was going to be looking at. I mean, Gervin right now, first off, we were talking about how Flex right now is the ultimate term that it could be used for, and the fact that Gervin's playing a Victor, which I at least don't have a perfect memory, but I don't remember him playing it too often, is pulling out. That gets to control a lot of the long range. Scooter got a very good first pick against this Eevee, and while it maybe isn't going exactly the way they want it to right now, I think those are the inner machinations right now for Carnage Gaming to keep things going forward. If this Buck finds a good kill, or even just a distraction factor on the side, then Victor or Shaolin can move up to find the rest of either the scraps that he's leaving behind or a kill for themselves.
Well, this is exactly the area where you want to be if you're Team Project now. You've opened up some space for yourselves. A Kraken used on the low ground there as well. Hero finds an opening kill over on the Crimson. That's going to give Project a great opening stand here on the defensive side. 3 members sweep down. A Spexy looking just to trade back a few, but that's going to be it for this offensive stand for Carnage Gaming. You look now at the ultimate score, this kind of pivot point, a minute left here in this round. Project probably a little bit more patient on using theirs, but Carnage with all 5 could make some noise if they choose.
You could try. I feel like there's a couple that I'm more willing to throw out than any. Like, Heat Haze can open this back up to be a push. With 40 seconds left, that's a great way to open it up, but it's also a really good opener for the round. Barrage charges back pretty fast. The same thing, Be Gone. It's Stone Keep. It's not necessarily going to have a lot of kill fields that you can use. So there's a couple of ultimates that you might be willing to throw out, but I feel like if you're Carnage, you might just have to hold this one.
Yeah, right here is where that kind of decision-making stops, I think. When you've got Team Project inside of your base, the moment you lose one, that seems to be the end of it. 15 seconds left. We'll maybe wait just for a moment to kind of fully recap this round. There is a chance for Carnage to get back and touch onto that payload, but as the seconds count down, looking ever less likely. So Team Project able to answer back on defense, tied up at 1 apiece here, Gore. And after losing a little bit of ground on that mid, the composition of Project just did not give up any space.
I believe a Kraken and a Whirlwind were used by Rock Monkey and Cuss, but the fact that they're already at, I think it was 87 and 85% respectively, it just showcases how open they're going to be able to come into this point. They didn't really risk anything for that loss, and this is a composition that it is a fine wine. It gets better with age. The longer this goes, the better it is for them, because Bulldozer starts to come online if they want to go for it. They get higher cut, so they can deal with Io's healing a little bit more, and they can help shut down specifically this Buck. His own self-healing won't be enough to keep him as aggressive anymore. And so I think Shadow is going to be able to jump back there. Now with a Bulldozer 2 for Rock Monkey, Crimson's not going to be able to put Luna on the point as safely. I think this is the opening for Project. This is where it starts.
Agreed. As much space as Rock Monkey's been able to control, Shadow carries so much weight on this Eevee, one of the best in the world. It's going to be an opening barrage for Gervin, but he drops down the goggles after not finding much. Look at Shadow bullied out by Scooter over here on this low ground. It's another Kraken used as well. Carnage Gaming, low health bars, but nobody dead just yet. A Whirlwind is going to save Project for the moment. Rock Monkey drops down the first kill here in this engagement. Into the ice block goes Shadow. A couple members of Carnage looking at him. And it's Scooter who finishes off that kill. But look at the numbers. Look at the percentage. It's all climbing for Project.
And this is where that counter comes into play. I mean, well, the best way to counter, Luna is either kill Luna or kill Io. You get rid of that Fox, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier. It's the same thing with an Inara. If you can kill Hero here, you're going to be able to get rid of it. But it took him 99%. I mean, if you're Carnage, you're playing with the 6-man that is the objective working against you.
Yeah, 99% and a couple ultimates to get yourself back in there. Buckwild Barrage both used. It's an assert dominance from Project to try to answer back, and Shadow will lock down Gervin. It's the front line getting it done for the blue side here. Scooter's going to have to drop himself down, and ultimately Rock Monkey finishes off that kill. A Dome Shield late on in the engagement is going to delay things a little bit longer, but finally Barrett goes down, and it's Project who makes good on a great start and grabs point number 2.
Look, in the history of this team, it's mixed amounts of success all around, right? But when you come down to it, if G-Bunny's having a good game on any team that he is on, the team's having a good game. And that's exactly where this Ash is at right now. I mean, just absolutely running the sidelines makes it so much easier for Shadow and for Rock Monkey to just move up, do whatever they want to. They're going to be able to relax and move forward. Cuss never feels fully threatened as the support, and that is the power of these tanks. And I think when you get G-Bunny specifically on a roll, it just makes it so much more easier for these blasters to start popping off.
Yeah, this Ash has really started to come alive, hasn't it, for G-Bunny here. Scooter is going to receive some good healing from Crimson here. This is a big battle onto the low ground. Gonna pinch in Carnage Gaming. If Scooter isn't able to stay alive, that's the knockback, but the leap up to the high ground is enough to keep him alive. Small moments that make a big difference as G-Bunny shoulder bashes through. Ultimate starting to ring down. One final shot, and Shadow finds it. A barrage from the high ground. Not enough to dislodge Team Project. But is it enough for Team Project now to push it in? We'll have to see.
Well, that's going to be a couple of kills, making it a lot easier. They have 1:20 to work with, and, well, G-Bunny's knocking on the door.
And that's a double from Shadow here. Payload close. Down onto the low ground goes the Buck. One more time. G-Bunny controlling all of the space on the high ground. But it's on the low ground where Carnage Gaming wishes they were. This one rolls in, and after a great start for Carnage, Project have now grabbed themselves 3 straight points.
I mean, more or less what I would expect. Again, it feels like a draft that needs some items, right? It doesn't need the late game, hey, we're 3-3 and gone the max distance we could have taken to get here late game, but it is we need like 300, 400 more credits than we start with to make this work. And now, I mean, still having, 1,100 there that was just spent by Rock Monkey, about 600, I think, spent by Hero. The more they have accrued, the better it feels for them. Hero's applying a ton of Cauterize. He's just one-tapping, hitting Scooter once, maybe hitting, Eco once, just to make sure that their healing won't be there. And then again, G-Bunny can run in and sweep up the kills. Shadow can run in and sweep up the kills after that.
Well, this is exactly what Carnage has done now 2 times in a row. Push over onto this side, onto Shadow, and it's worked out twice in a row. But last time they gave up so much onto the point. Maybe similar here. Carnage Gaming are going to drop down Luna, build up some percentage, and it's a 1-for-1 trade. Cuss Cutie, though, falls in the meantime as the Spexy and Scooter combine for a couple. Gore, their health is low, but it's actually Carnage Gaming with the bigger numbers.
I mean, they have the numbers advantage. But Hero's still hanging around, and granted, I don't think there's a lot Hero can do on his own, especially with the barrage getting dropped on him. And that's going to put a fork in this. And once you lose your Nara here, you don't have the same staying power on the objective. You need this Dredge to be able to keep them off the point. And you need Hero to be able to stay on the objective to make sure you can mash it up. That 74%, it's not going to be taken lightly.
Look at Shadow deep into the backline. He goes unable to finish off the final shot. We'll run to the victor. Hero, seismic crash down. Doesn't connect on anyone except onto the backline. It's Team Project now storming forward to be gone. Canceled out here. And G-Bunny controlling the left side of the map. Cuss Cutie, he's found Equal and Crimson. He'll fall by the wayside as well. It's a heat haze, maybe from a Spexy to save the game, but it's the full-on wipe for Team Project. And Gormizer, it looks like they have just won game number 1.
I mean, getting first blood in the summer finals has got to feel pretty good, especially a team that did so well. I mean, they lost 1 set in Phase 1 throughout all of it, and it was to Sanguine, so granted, it's something that you kind of expect to have happen that way. It looks really good for them starting off. Again, with the Dredge, it shows that they've been doing a little bit of homework. They have been practicing. And normally when I see Grover on Stone Keep, I can talk for 20 minutes about Vex, but I think Cuss is in that conversation as well. They've got some versatility coming in for them. Project are playing, honestly, in a way that kind of felt they were missing the last few weeks of Phase 1.
This is exactly what we wanted to see from this Project squad. They bring the name recognition, and second place in NA, as stacked as it's been, is nothing to scoff at here. But really bringing it in game number 1, a great start for Team Project. We'll have to see if they can go back-to-back in game 2, but first we'll go back to the desk to break down game number 1.
As Gore and Dave said, Team Project looking to open up the summer finals in a strong fashion with the 4-1 victory right there over Carnage Gaming. And you know who was looking real comfortable while watching that game? It was Laura's dog, who's very cute. At QuackyBubblesR, on Twitter. Laura says she is watching PPC. We love her, and that's all that really matters. And she watched a great game there, Kresnik, out of this Team Project squad, because it took them a little bit, and as Gore and Dave were saying, I think that it really was just itemization that took a little bit to come online here for Team Project.
Yeah, at the start of the game, they didn't have the bulldozer that they needed to really burn through Luna early. They had the beginning cap time, but when they had to disengage back into the keep side, of the map, they just got locked out. They didn't have the bulldozer to peek and quickly burn down Luna, so Aya was able to keep Luna and the entire team healed up. When you can do that, that's when Aya really shines, but once bulldozers were online, once they changed their focus, played outside a little bit, things just quickly went back in favor of Project.
It really felt like G-Bunny was completely unstoppable in that game as well on that Ashe. I mean, it just felt like once the ball got rolling, it was very, very difficult to stop. And I feel like this is one of those games that is really difficult to come back from if you're Carnage, because you get the priority pick in the whole tournament that everyone's thinking is going to be super OP in IO, and it gets handled this easily. And that can change picks and bans, not only for the rest of this set, but potentially for the rest of the tournament.
I do think it's a map-specific pick. IO did a great job here, but Dredge, not necessarily going to be something you can pull out on any map to easily counter. And Dredge really handles getting dove the best, right? Maybe if they had a backliner without the ability to just teleport away from any fight that's going poorly, maybe the Buck can dislodge this Dredge, or maybe duel the flanker on the other side if it's not Eevee. These two work really well on this map. But you can see, let's say something goes wrong for Rock here. If he thinks he's going to die, walk into that portal. He warps to the other side. They're not going to be able to burn him down. And not being able to get those people down from the high ground while they free fire on the Luna made IO significantly harder to play.
And that's going to put Carnage in, I think, a pretty weird position. But as you said, maybe it could be really centered around that map selection. So that's going to be important going forward in this game. But the Ashe first pick, I thought, looked phenomenal here for Team Project. I mean, it wasn't just this Dredge alone that I thought looked pretty strong. The Inara was great for Hero as well.
Yeah, both the tanks, I think, did a great job. The prioritization on Barrack might be something that they have to look at as well on the side of Carnage, because giving them Inara, a character that Hero's been known for since he was level 40 in the game. I mean, he's been playing competitive since that early, and it's always been a strong player on this Inara. You can't give that tank duo to Project, I think. They're going to work with any healers. They're going to work with any DPS. Rock Monkey and Shadow are flexible across the whole gambit of the role. So maybe just take a little bit of comfort away from them and get someone that pairs better with the IO if you manage to get it again.
Especially, you don't want to pick Barrack whenever the Bulldozer is going to be so good already against IO, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to kind of let them double down on that. Well, let's see what we've got for the map. It's going to be Ice Mines coming up next, so might have to strap in for a bit of a longer one here. How do you feel like a pick like Dredge can do on the Ice Mines? This doesn't feel like it has the verticality, at least on the point fight, that will let him be quite as effective.
It's a different style of Dredge that you pull out on Ice. You can still play Hurl, you can still run that poke, but having the Scuttle, AoE control, I've always talked about this map. If you have the ability to lock down a choke point, you can win it. If your team is better at doing that, as long as you get that initial control, spam the chokes, don't let them in. And Dredge can do that excellently. I will say, though, I think this is a map where IO could also be lower priority. The point is, in the open in front of everything, you can get a little bit of cap time with IO, but you're going to lose Luna, and you need someone that can heal through walls effectively with how many twists and turns the map has leading into the mid.
So maybe the top pick that we expect might not necessarily be the case here on Ice Mines. Well, now it's the CG squad in that first pick, and they actually ban away that Grover right away. Felt like it was giving them a little bit too many problems on locking down this support in Game 1.
Yeah, and Grover's great on this map, too. I mentioned healing through walls, and Grover can do that while Cuss could get up and get a drink and come back, and he'd still be healing with Grover a lot of the time. So get rid of that ease of use support with the great CC, something that will be high priority on maps like this. And Project respond by getting rid of the IO. Maybe they're not as comfortable playing that aggressive style to deal with it on here. So 2 supports out. Now we're going to see the depth on the supports on both sides. We're going to see some Dambas, some Yings, Genos. Maybe we'll get a first look at Corvus too.
Certainly possibility here is Khan taken off the board by Team Project in addition to that IO Strix there on the other side. So now we're looking at that first pick potential. Could be that Inara, try and get some good point presence, but you mentioned how much the Brazilian region seems to love playing ROM, left open this time and first picked by the CG team.
Picking it this early, I think, is tough, though. CG just really wanting to force some of these tanks with easier counters really high in this draft. ROM, against some forms of CC, can be tough to make work, and Bomb King, coming in for Project, has some CC, maybe not as easy to stop ROM with, but pair it with a Genos. He can heal through walls. He has hit scan to dismount people when you're on the initial rollout. Could be a great flexible pick for them, but instead they focus on controlling the closer side of the mid, that little barn. This Terminus will be able to protect this Bomb King and get aggressive. Logic is, if you go forward enough, if you can get aggressive enough, doesn't matter how far behind you the ROM is, just leave him in the dust.
Yeah, let everyone else worry about him. You don't have to worry about it too much. Memory serves, Ice Mines and Terminus is kind of peanut butter and jelly, often found together. And we will see our first Corvus here of the Summer Finals. You seem excited there, Kresnik. How do you think he performs on this map?
I think he's great for this map because you can heal through walls with your mark if you're good at cycling them. And he also has the hit scan to dismount. He fits in pretty well here, and his ultimate is basically just a big Tyra Molotov with a slowing effect. Put that behind a team, they can't back up. Put it in front of them, they don't want to push through. He has a lot of what you want from a support and added utility that I think just pairs well with the map.
Tiberius here as well. I haven't been watching a whole lot leading up to this, so you'll have to inform me here. Is Tiberius a pick that you expect to see? Because when I was playing Paladins at the very beginning of the year, I saw only Tiberius in every single one of my games, and he was pretty good back then.
And he's still good now, especially on ice. So many corners, so many close turns. Bounce your shots around the corner, constantly harass. You can really get people low that you can't see, keep them in combat from getting that passive healing. It can help a lot that way, plus the burst damage from the explosive blade from Tigron's Fury, something that Carnage, I believe, or just in general, Brazilian Tiberiuses have been running. Can get a lot out of that potentially, and he can even go aggressive with the ROM and the Talus. So if the backline, if the Victor specifically isn't ready, Tiberius can really take advantage of him playing alone up in the stage side.
I mean, now you get that last pick Inara here for Carnage, but Team Project get the last pick Ash on the other side. You predicted the Moldamba potentially here for Cuss. I feel like Carnage, though, I mean, they've got a lot of exciting picks on their side. The Corvus, the Tiberius, and now the Talus as well. Do you think they've got the tools to come back here in game number 2?
100%. I think they have a great aggressive draft, other than maybe the Inara. It's about how well G-Bunny and Cuss can protect Rock Monkey on this Victor, because if they can't do it, a lot of damage is out of the picture, and Carnage can just wipe the stage side of the map and surround Project.
Rock Monkey certainly huge in game number 1 on that dredge. We'll see if he can repeat that performance on the Victor here in game number 2. Let's throw it down to David Gormizer to kick us off.
And we get our first look at Corvus here in the Paladins Pro Circuit Summer Finals. Game number 2 on Ice Mines, Carnage Gaming looking to bounce themselves back here, Gore. We kind of with the jumping off point is maybe Rock Monkey as Ryan drops it to us there. Dredge in game 1 looks good. The Victor is a whole nother animal, I think, when it comes to this guy, so I expect big things, but the big talking point, I think, really needs to be Crimson, and this Corvus now, we're seeing it for the first time.
And running that spreading influence. I was curious because, you know, you talk about Corvus, I feel like every conversation I've had about him almost always comes up about how every single one of his talents has some use somewhere for whatever playstyle you want to bring. This one, he's going to have those 2 marks out, so maybe not the same amount of healing as you expect, but he's still going to be able to apply it. And this is what you expect if he's a main healer, but I don't know if we're going to be seeing him keep up with this Moldamba as well.
Well, right around the corner, you can see what one sticky bomb does there, and it forces Crimson back just a little bit. G-Bunny doing plenty well, controlling the space down on the low ground. It's 2 for the Ash already here on Ice Mine. Sometimes that's a death sentence score. Rock Monkey finishes off a Spexy. G-Bunny has 3 through the first minute and a half of this game. And knowing Ice Mine's the way we do, that could just be it for the point fight.
Honestly, sometimes it's not even Ice Mine's the way it is, but Ice Mine's the way this looks. They look like, from Project here, this is a team that should have the payload at 30%, 40%, right? Like, they're marching the payload down towards the base. When you get that aggressive on a point capture at the beginning of the game, there is very little chance for you to get back there. Rom has, like, that unique ability to knock everyone out of his way and try to touch it down, but I mean, they're just too aggressive. Even those kills on Nihiro and Shadow might just slow down the initial push more than stop anything from happening here.
Well, G-Bunny absolutely continues his performance from game number 1. The Ash is always something you have to be on the lookout for. And able to control that space so well, and Point Fight 1 certainly no different here. This is really that pivot point. The fight right after that mid-fight so often sets the pace for these Ice Mine pushes or defenses, and it's Team Project right now that are actually able to open up that space. Look at what Shadow's doing, fighting just behind that massive power siphon, connecting with all of his shots and melting the health bars of Carnage.
Man, I don't know if they could have given me a combo on Team Project that would be more fun to watch. I mean, one of the conversations around Project early on, specifically after Ricotta, had left, was who's going to be able to fill those shoes, and Rock Monkey's maybe the only player who would fill those shoes, maybe actually bring just his own pair of shoes into the equation, right? Because he's just that good of a player, world championship under his belt. And you get him on Victor, so nice hit scan. You put Shadow on the Bomb King, which is something that is just a classic. This is just looking like perfect play from them.
Well, King Bomb is going to delete Scooter, but the defense is sound from Carnage Gaming for the moment. Usually on Ice Mines, you need the full-on sweep to really get that payload to roll through. Respawn's just a little bit too close for Carnage Gaming, or for Team Project, rather. Carnage Gaming able to successfully defend. Ares played a big role just now on this defensive stand on the Talus score. We're going to need a little bit more of that to keep this payload at bay.
Yeah, and honestly, Brazil, one of the things they're bringing, or two things, I really should say, that they're bringing to this is two unique picks that have done, I would say, well in Brazil, but nowhere else, and that's this Tiberius, that is this Talus. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep up. This ult right now, coming down from a Spexy, and needs to do a lot, either in terms of distraction or kill factor. It just needs to slow down Project.
Well, it did distract, but not much else. The kill factor was sort of missing from that equation. Rock Monkey with a couple, and Scooter will go down as well. 13 seconds left. Payload just makes its way underneath that first archway. One member down still for Carnage Gaming. This is a moment where you need to kind of complete the stagger if you're Team Project. Rock Monkey in a good spot to do so. Down from the high ground goes Scooter. The barrage looking to plug down some damage, but Rock is taking just a little bit too much as Gervin will melt him away. Shadow moves back as Crimson stays at distance in order to heal the rest of his team. And looking like a successful defense here, Carnage Gaming respawns just in the nick of time.
It's going to need to be a drastically different mid-fight, though.
Oh, yeah.
And Carnage aren't really coming in with anything drastically different. I mean, they're about to have Rom's ult, which, honestly, huge AoE shield-destroying stun can be very potent depending on how G-Bunny uses his shield early on, or just who he catches out. I mean, Shadow, Rock Monkey, if they're locked down in that, that's going to be a death for them. And maybe Ares, there's two paths you can go when you have this ult as a Talus at the beginning of the round. It's the cheese of, I'm going to ult across the map, dismount everyone, then ult, and then Rune of Travel back. Then we all have to slowly run to the point while my team captures it. Or I might use it to specifically isolate Rock Monkey. Isolate Shadow when they're around this mid-fight. Try to lock them down where you can. Just get that one-on-one, kill them off, and then it sets your team up for a 5v4.
Some good dismount potential for Carnage Gaming. They've been able to find just a few. Maybe a pivot here from Carnage, as G-Bunny was able to control the low ground before.
Oh.
What a reaction on that Dread Serpent. Sends one running, and the true power from Ares won't find much. Gervin sprinting around, but he's sensed out by Rock Monkey. The ultimate will go down, and looks like Victor maybe in a little bit of trouble, but unable to complete the kill is Gervin. You kind of have this Corvus out on his own on an island right now, Gore, and Shadow's finding kills in the meantime on the back line of this fight.
Well, finally getting some kills coming through. Gervin, so that's the one thing Rom's going to be bringing to this. He didn't get a kill there, but, I mean, he kept Cuss busy and he kept Rock Monkey busy to allow the rest of the team to maybe open up some avenues. Unfortunately, the rest of the team wasn't able to get anything done. Now that Rock Monkey's back in the fight, you just have nowhere to go, and I think that's the issue with the ROM, and this is something that Kresnik had highlighted as we kind of saw him fall off in Phase 1. It really is the fact that, it sounds dumb to say it, but when you kill him, that's the best counter to him. He doesn't necessarily do anything. He just kind of stands there, he's a bullet sponge for a little while, and then he's gone. And then once he's out of there, it's a 4v5, and you don't have to worry about the damage on the side, you don't have to worry about his ult anymore. It just makes it so much easier to then get aggressive, deal with this Tiberius, this Talus, and ignore everything else.
Well, I think it's got to be extra tough for Carnage Gaming as Team Project in the meantime is able to find a few more kills. But you look at that moment where Gervin is basically controlling the attention of Rock Monkey and Cuss Cutie, so you'd think that elsewhere in the fight, there's a 4v3 that's going in your favor. We're sacrificing one guy to pull the attention of two for Team Project. But then you look at the ultimates that Project were able to use. A King Bomb, assert dominance, the Dread Serpent used very well by Cuss in the other aspect of the fight. Just worked out so well. And that really is what got this payload to where it's at right now. Another true power from Ares will find its way into the backline here. Gervin, not dissuaded by what happened in that mid-fight, Gore is going to move his way once more deep into the back and try to find some dismounts.
I mean, it feels weird to say it this way, but Carnage Gaming kind of feels like they've gone for what I will call the classic Ice Mines, which is hey, whatever happens for the first 3 mid-fights, who cares? It's that 4th mid-fight that's going to matter for them, right? Push it to a 3-3. If it means just having to fight on defense, you're going to suffer in the credit department, but as long as you can keep Project slowed down, backed off, you don't necessarily care as much as long as you are able to keep up with them and force it to that final mid. The problem is so far, if you lose 2 mids in a row, that last mid, I don't have the you know, the wherewithal to put my money on you to win that one. So you have to figure this out. And well, now with 45 seconds left, you should try to figure it out in the next defense.
Yeah, Team Project were able to kind of open the door for themselves and get back to the payload with 38 seconds left. Bit of a different fight here for Carnage Gaming. Further out from the back of their base, and Ares learns that the hard way. Gervin left on an island on his own. Once more, Juggernaut will rip through the Team Project lineup. But look at this response. Rock Monkey says, I don't care. He's going to turn his attention to Crimson in the back line of Carnage Gaming. The dash forward from a Spexy not far enough as G-Bunny will knock him down a peg or two. Scooter left alone by the payload, nearly the full wipe. It's Gervin. He's alone in the back line here, and the rest of Team Project has ignored him. Or maybe he's bought enough time for the respawns.
He's definitely going to be able to stand around 1 more second, no problem, but unfortunately he was the only body there, so the respawns come through. But, you know, you have to play at a distance. The problem with the rest of Carnage Gaming, save for the Inara, is, hey, if this victor puts you in his sights, I mean, he's 16-3-11. It speaks for itself. I don't have to explain what's going on here. It is all Rock Monkey. You have to figure out how to deal with that. And guess what? If it's not Rock Monkey, well, 7-5-14. It's Shadow. If it's not Shadow, it's 8-1-13. It's G-Bunny, of all people, getting in there. The kills are just rolling through for Project. And I think they handle it perfectly. I mean, Gervin goes into the backline trying to do what he did on the mid-fight, and they just say, all right, have fun back there. We're just going to go kill everyone else exactly the way we need to, open up the point. And it just makes it so much easier. You have to change the plot for this for Carnage Gaming. And I don't know, they just don't have the ults to do it right here.
Yeah, the ults is kind of, I think, where the big pivot is. It's a big one. Remember, these are still best of 5, so Team Project win this mid-fight here. Carnage Gaming already on the back foot at risk of dropping down to the loser's side. Gervin, a different look here, moves over. Seismic Crash drops down into the back line, so Scooter has found some value. But can they get the kills? Cuss Cutie doing a good bit of healing here. A Spexy will knock down that Maldamba. Juggernaut from Gervin deep into the back. And Crimson just sacrificing himself here to avoid the heavy stagger. It is Gervin left alone in the back of Team Project, but the other 4 of Carnage left respawning.
Cuss deserves a raise this game. I mean, he has done so much, so many crucial heals, so many pinpoint accurate Dread Serpents that have changed the pace of the game. He is honestly maybe the main reason they're doing so well.
Gore, this might just be it here. Rock Monkey's finally found the kill over onto Gervin. It's 3v5. Carnage Gaming looking to fight back in, but Shadow, he has something to say about it. Overtime is on. Overtime will be off. Crimson, no real chance to contest this one. And Team Project sweep away Ice Mines and go up 2-0 in the set.
When everyone on your team except the support has a streak that is burning for them, that is the showcase that it is entirely that support player, right? That is doing everything, that's helping set it up. And again, you know, you talked about how Gervin was distracting 2 people. The 2 people he were distracting, Rock Monkey and Cuss, right? That's the worst combo to have to go up against if they have 2 of them. And Cuss was just so essential in all those little moments where it's just, hey, this Dread Serpent to make sure that you're getting a little bit more damage off than he's getting his ult off. Here's that crucial heal you needed, right, when you needed it. I think he was the engine that just kept this machine running for them. And then everyone else just did their job, right? And they did it exceedingly well because of the way they were set up.
And then you look at the ultimates as well. We're still thinking, all right, yeah, it's a 4v5 or 4v3 while Gervin is distracting 2 people. But then you got a King Bomb to fight against and Assert Dominance to fight against. The ultimates just kind of deleted the other few members of Carnage Gaming that were fighting back. Big performances here from Team Project. We'll have to wait and see if they can make it a clean 3-0. We'll go back to aggro once more to break down game number 2.
Thank you, Dave. Team Project continue to look unbelievable here in our first set of the day and our first set of the entire tournament. I mean, Kresnik, the Corvus didn't work, the ROM didn't work. You mentioned as long as Rock Monkey's able to stay up and healthy, this is going to be a good game for Team Project, and Rock Monkey was up and healthy an awful lot that game.
Yeah, 19-3 I would say is alive enough for sure, and outputting the amount of damage that he did. How do you beat that? How do you beat when you're just getting rolled over by a Victor at that level. The ROM tries to go in, but even if the ROM gets in on the Vic alone, Predator 5, 40% lifesteal. Early in the game, he just outtrades that damage and charges ult so fast, and almost every barrage that Rock had was impactful.
It just felt like we saw so many ROM Victor 1v1s that lasted like a good 15, 20 seconds. That, you know, it takes the Victor a while to kill the ROM, but it was never close. That Victor was really never close to losing those 1v1s, and I think that was a huge determining factor here for Team Project. Do you feel like the Corvus was underwhelming because of how well Team Project played, or do you feel like the character just didn't do what you expected?
I think it's just how Team Project played, because Corvus was outputting heals, he was living through dives because of his fantastic mobility, but the rest of your team tries to get aggressive and falters because of this great peel from Cuss and Hero. You can't burn through a Siphon no matter what, and Corvus is just left alone deciding, alright, do I try to run away the entire length of Ice Mines, or do I just delay point maybe a couple more seconds? Crimson getting caught with that quite a bit makes it really hard for him to shine through, I think. Maybe a more defensive comp where he can be in line of sight of people as often as possible could show a little more of the value that Corvus can bring.
We'll have to wait and see if that's what they're able to find later on, but we've seen Rock Monkey in all of these highlights just tapping heads over and over and over again. 19-3, as you mentioned, 12 assists for him as well, nearly hit the 4K credit mark in what was a very quick game, so I think that's pretty telling. And Gervin really was just the, hey, do you want to charge your ult damage on me? I mean, that's kind of the way it felt.
Look at
Gervin
the damage
was really
taken.
Just yeah, that is absurd, man. That game's crazy.
He took only a little bit more damage than Rock Monkey dealt. He basically just completely nullified him, and none of that was in shields. All of that damage is going right into Rock's ult charge, and again, it's a close-range map. You can't escape the barrages if Rock Monkey has the right line of sight.
And he certainly did in game number 2. So now Carnage has to find a way to win on Jaguar Falls, or they will be dropping to the lower brackets swiftly here to start off our day. Jaguar Falls, you said this is a map that usually gets banned. How different do you think that this can be here for Carnage?
It's not so much usually gets banned, but surprised that they didn't ban it with a Bright Marsh ban. Having that a very similar map that they've already gotten rid of, now they're saying, all right, well, we didn't want to play them on this map that plays a lot like Jag. Let's take them to Jag. This seems like a comfortable place to be. Maybe they think they can pull out something that Project haven't really seen. Jaguar being so flat, you can play a lot of those champions that are limited by the lack of vertical mobility, whether it be Lex, whether it be Moji, pulling out any of those tanky kind of flankers. They can have something unique to bring out against Project, but Project clearly see it coming. Ban Moji, and Carnage try to get rid of Shadow's BK in response.
Interesting. The Moji ban pretty early here. And without that verticality, I do think that maybe that IO can get some extra value, right? Because that Dredge pick shouldn't be quite as scary, at least in theory.
You can play Scuttle on this map, but it's not as good. You can overwhelm him significantly faster. I wouldn't be shocked to see Project just ban it. They banned ROM last time, and we saw how little effect it was able to get last game, so get rid of that IO, something that will be harder to counter. Carnage, I don't know if they want to go ROM first again, because if they do, they're really opening up Project to a whole line of counter picks, just like they had on Ice Mines.
Instead, it will be the Cassie, a mobile option here for Carnage. Do you feel like this is giving up too much priority, though, on the frontliners? I mean, we've seen the Ashe be so dominant over there for Project and G-Bunny. I'm a little bit surprised that we don't see something like that taken away.
It's also a little bit of, I would say, DPS priority, too. Cassie's, I wouldn't consider her the highest tier, best DPS in the game right now. She's going to look like it this game, though, against a ROM with Big Game just absolutely shredding through any of his bonus health, but this does give them potential to take the Vivian on the side of Project, who I think is phenomenal on this map. Any flankers they wanted, but instead, you're right, they do go for those front lines, taking away the arguably best point tank, and an off tank that, if enabled, can go off. He's just going to have to find a way to avoid these crossbow shots.
Well, there's the typical ROM counter pick in the Genos, someone who can pick him up out of that charge. And you like the damage amp potentially there for the Cassie as well, helping her stay safe as well, but feel like Carnage is going to have a little bit of trouble finding that actual front line that'll be necessary to protect the Genos, the Cassie, and now the Andro that they've picked up. I mean, if the other team is going to prioritize double frontline, though, I suppose it does make sense to save yours until pretty late in the draft.
And they can even still flex to triple DPS too. Khan's still available. Khan also great into ROM. So Carnage could take the sanguine line of thinking. Khan solo tank. If your tank's good enough to survive through the damage with Khan's cooldowns, you have that great CC. He can sustain, he can get away, he can give himself bonus rejuvenate, and he's great into Xin. So if Carnage go that route, they've actually set themselves up for a great draft on Jag. I think they just need a blaster, some kind of AoE damage to poke around corners or poke out whatever direct damage that Project ends up with.
Instead, it's going to be the Makoa trying to use that hook to bring some people in. You're not liking that much, quite as much there, Kresnik?
Solo tank Makoa is struggling right now, and I think that's the nicest way I could possibly put it. Half Shell, only so effective, you can play within your shield, but if they ignore it, you are basically not a tank for 15 seconds. And that's 15 seconds that a Ramen is in would love to have. Pip in response, undervalued right now, and great on this map potentially, but Team Project, they know they're opening. Only Androxus to counter him. Drogos could potentially be something that could just pop off on this map. High above the chokes, spam down. Don't let Carnage walk out for free.
Seems like that's the exact direction that Team Project is going to go. That Makoa, I think, is going to have a heavy burden on his shoulders here for Carnage. Not only as the only tank, but the only frontliner in a game where you need to win absolutely in order to keep this set going. Do you think Carnage, not going the Khan, has still done enough in order to win this game?
These Ancient Rages from the Makoa are going to have to be the fattest I've ever seen. It will literally have to get 1v5 wipes and avoid the Dragon Punch coming into counter. It's going to be tough for Carnage. I think they have characters that can pop off. It's just, they have the counters on Project. They have to find a way around them.
Easy enough. I mean, 1v5 Ancient Rages shouldn't be a problem here for Carnage. Let's let Dave and Gore bring us the action.
Yeah, it really seems like Carnage have drafted themselves a high execution floor composition where if you start to swing, it'll swing, but you've got a lot of room to make up before you get there. Is that sort of a sentiment, Gore, you might line up with as we jump into Jaguar Falls for what could be the third and final map of our first set?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot here for Carnage Gaming to make this work. I think Pip is, the flavor. Honestly, you go back to what Kresnik was saying there on the desk. If you trade out that Makoa for a Khan, I think Carnage Gaming, they at least win the draft in my eyes, right? I think it's a lot of control. I think it gives them an extra set of hit scan to help deal with this Drogos, which is maybe where my eyes go next. Because, Dave, how long has it been since we got to see a Drogos?
I don't know. I'm excited about it, though, especially when it's in the hands of Shadow. Jaguar Falls, absolutely a map where it can work, but not when Gervin is chasing you down. Dream start for Carnage Gaming here, already getting rid of Shadow. One final shot on a G-Bunny. That'll connect as well. The Androxus hitting early and hitting often. Team Project, though, have built themselves up about a 45% lead and still controlling some of these small spaces.
I mean, that's realistically where Team Project are going to have the control. They have two tanks. They can just send a Nara, stand on the objective, and win the fight on the side. Unless you have a Spexy while doing that, finding double kills consistently. Wow. Not going to be able to keep up too evenly, but I think a Spexy, this Pip, kind of a sleeper pick. I feel like he is underutilized, something Kresnik had just said on the desk as well, but Evil Mojo is still, hands down, maybe one of the best ults in the game. I mean, turning multiple people, polymorphing them into chickens, taking their health to 1500 makes it so much easier to kill some tanks. In the right moments against the right comps, it changes the world.
One more fight in here for Team Project. Gonna have to do it without the ultimates this time around. Gervin again connects this time onto Kiro, but Scooter, maybe the more bountiful prize as Team Project have gotten rid of the first and only tank that Carnage Gaming have. An Evil Mojo, though, will set up a good fight here for Gervin. Rotates through, finds a nice double kill, the triple, as he turns around, the quad just out of reach. And where else do you need to look after this first mid-fight other than Gervin on the Andro?
So this is where I was wondering, essentially if Carnage Gaming were going to be able to take the reins. Androxus is the natural predator to Drogos. It's something that is just, it is true in Paladins. It has been true since the beginning. I think it still remains true now because this hit scan presence he can have in the air, and that's where this kind of dynamic comes through. Rock Monkey has to save Shadow by killing Gervin, who will then save Rock Monkey by killing someone on the ground, right? They save each other if they can get in the right sync. But it is, getting off on the right foot there, making sure that you're not taken down, whether it's, going to be from Gervin jumping around on the Andro, or if it's from Crimson throwing out through time and space. Either way, you can't get caught out by those things.
It's a good snipe from Crimson, a good triple stun from G-Bunny, but Team Project just not in range to follow up the damage. The goal here might just be to delay Carnage Gaming from moving forward, and Team Project have done that. A nice ultimate from Hero as well will delay things. The dash backwards from Cuss Cutie will keep him alive. So things are looking for just a second there, Gore. Like Carnage Gaming might actually have the opening. And Team Project, sort of liberal with their ultimate usage, is going to keep the payload where it's at.
I mean, as long as you lock it down here, again, this is a draft that I don't think necessarily needs a redo. I don't think it gets better with time or worse with time. I think it's just going to be able to find its footing. They recognize what Carnage Gaming are looking for this time. And we say this a lot, and I like to kind of lean on this one, but, you know, Gervin getting a triple kill there at the very end of the mid-fight, you can't always rely on him getting a triple kill, so knowing you might not have that exact same swing in the next round, it's going to bring a lot to light. Trust me, when you see the payload that hasn't moved and there's 40 seconds left on the push,
wow,
you start talking about round 2. You aren't talking about round 1 anymore.
Yeah, it might just be time. Crimson unable to connect here on this one. Shadow, despite a couple stumbles early on, has started to come alive. It's a double kill, finally shut down by Ares. A signature Cassie, something we saw out of Ares time and time again. Last year was the kind of Cassie Maeve meta there for a little while, and Ares played into it very, very well. Doesn't stop Hero from running him down for the solo kill. 8 seconds left. Gonna hesitate just for a second, see if there is any contest. Crimson in range grabs the kill. It's gonna be Team Project on the defensive side. Looking good. And overtime is on here. Rock Monkey's found his way into the back line. Counter into the billow. One final shot. Who gets it? It's Rock Monkey around the corner. Two members rather left alive here for Carnage Gaming. One very healthy Scooter. It looks like maybe that's all she wrote. Overtime is going to melt down, and Team Project a little longer than maybe they anticipated. They're going to tie it up.
There have been moments in the past where I've seen people on specifically this map find themselves a full overtime push. And I was a little concerned there at a certain point for Team Project that I was going to start for them. Just because, like, you see overtime and you're like, all right, well, it's just one guy touching. And then about 5 seconds later, it still hasn't budged. You start to question things a little bit. But I think they were able to, well, just prioritize targets properly. I mean, Gervin, you know, he's the only one that's doing exceedingly well here for Carnage. If you strip that away going into this round, it's going to be a lot easier for you. You've got Shadow, who's now going to be a little more safe, specifically with that Haven, going up into the airs, taking a little bit less damage from Ares, a little less damage from Gervin, and realistically from everybody on Carnage, save for a Spexy, who shouldn't be able to hit a Drogoz this high up in the sky. It's going to make it a lot easier for Shadow, I think, to show off this round.
A lot of that hinges on Shadow. I agree. Good wall from Hero is going to keep Ares right where they want him. An Evil Mojo down onto the low ground. That's an Ancient Rage countered out by the Dragon Punch, but a great Void Grip from Crimson is going to give a Spexy the free kill. One fell swoop is all Carnage Gaming needed to knock down Team Project once more. You have to look at the ultimates, though, Gore. Team Project still with some good tools to fight back in.
Yeah, they use the Spite, they end up using the Dragon Punch to be able to get an execute there, but other than that, they still have the Inflame, which might be their biggest fight back. I mean, 57-30, it's not like it's too close on the point either. They can definitely take this.
G-Bunny gets Ares. Gervin up and down from the high ground. A seismic crash used just a moment ago by Hero. Crimson instead gets the kill. Over under Rock Monkey, you would hope if you're a Project you were able to do a little bit more with the ultimates you had at your disposal, but instead, it's another clean sweep here for Carnage Gaming. G-Bunny unaffected by that through time and space, but the overwhelming damage numbers will be there, and it's going to be Carnage Gaming once more capturing the mid-fight. But Team Project not quite in the same position to delay this payload push as they were last time.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about the last couple of games has been G-Bunny's impact. And I just feel like Rom doesn't get to have the same impact as an Ashe, as a Khan, as some of these other champions that we have come through. And realistically, it's because in moments like this, right, he finally gets that dash down. He is doing something unique here, where he's actually able to chase down Crimson. Because most of the time you just get Void Gripped out of it, and then you can't chase forward. And the thing with Rom really is, if he is going to be in your backline, you do need to stop it. And, you know, like save the Cassie, you need to stop him from getting aggressive on his Spexy. But you can peel for that, and then you isolate him, either by killing the rest of the team like they've done on the mid-fights, or like right there where G-Bunny just goes a little too far. And it's just so easy. He can't do anything in a 1v2, 1v3, 1v4 that's going to, you know, make strides in the game the way some of these other off-tanks do.
G-Bunny is a big pivot point for this Team Project team, so they'll hope that the ROM is able to make a few more strides as this payload push commences for Carnage Gaming. That second wave of ultimates here in this round starting to come back online, and Evil Mojo could open up the door. Ares gets a nice double kill. Crimson will knock down Rock Monkey. It's 3 for Cassie. Suddenly 4 for Ares on the payload push. The full-on sweep as Team Project suddenly wiped off the map.
Look, we like to give Ares a lot of trouble. And I'm going to give... this is going to be a very backhanded compliment. He does not have the biggest champion pool, but the champions that he can play, man, does he bring them to the table. And that's what this Cassie is going to be able to do, right? That is why he is going to be essential here. And honestly, she's a projectile-based champion, but she's pretty close to hit scan to the point that it's causing trouble for Shadow as well.
That's good in-flame from Cuscutie to keep Carnage Gaming at bay. A stun down over onto Gervin, and it's going to be one taking the easy way out over there on the Pip as he is back and respawning right in the moment where Team Project needed it. I mean, you can't... That's sort of that high execution threshold, I suppose, we were talking about going into this game, where sometimes Gervin just pops off. Sometimes Ares is just going to hit those shots more consistently. And it's been Carnage Gaming doing so up to this point. 8 seconds left. One final chance at a payload push. Rock Monkey locked down. Crimson finds a final shot. Gervin rotating around the right-hand side on the flank. Shell spin on in, but Scooter absolutely deleted by Shadow. It's a double kill. Make it 3 for the Drogos, flying high above the rest of the team. Cuscutie one shot away by Gervin, who turns around, finds the flick shot, but down goes the Androxus, and Team Project have tied it up.
I mean, just being able to find that, I think Shadow, again, hits his stride in the right moments at the right time with his Drogos. This is not an easy game to be a Drogos in. I mean, there's so many things that can just catch you off at any given moment. And he's, yeah, 12 and 10, like that slash line explains it. He's able to be a huge part of a lot of these kills, but he's also not exactly able to get away from everything that you would like to see it. And the kills are coming up from... Well, yeah, the 2 hit scan champions on the other side on Carnage Gaming. That's where the issues are. So if you can start either with Rock Monkey finding a kill there, or if Shadow's able to eliminate one of them, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier for him to just exist. And him just existing as Drogos is better than most people when they're trying as Drogos, right? So it's going to be something, again, that Carnage Gaming have to factor into this.
I don't want to pile on Ares, but at 6 and 10... 4 of the 6 kills come in a quadra kill, so he's 2 and 10 without it. Can't discount it, though. No Dragon Punch to counter out the Ancient Rage this time. 3 grouped up members of Carnage Gaming catching maybe a little bit more damage from this Drogos than they had bargained for. It's going to be a big fire spit. Shadow finds the execute. Mid-air shot over onto Gervin. It's the dream mid-fight now for Team Project as Carnage Gaming gets swept off the map.
I mean, that's just... You can't ask for anything better than that, right? I mean, that is the dream Drogo's shot that comes down. One fire spit to the side, and then one, like, fade away. I'm not even going to look back at him and second-guess the rocket that is flying at this drifting Androxus. That's just something you don't get to see too often, and being able to connect with that, those kills being so much more important. Evil Mojo's not available yet. It's got 13%. You need a huge ult to turn this one around.
Great patience there by Shadow. Thought about executing Scooter, realizing the health bar is a little bit too low. The rest of my team's going to finish him off. Turns around and gets down onto Ares. It's Team Project in on overtime. A Spexy taken down, and Crimson fully on the run. It's going to be a juggernaut to try to dislodge Gervin, and Hero gets it done with a couple of kills of his own. Finally, a mid-fight win here for Project, and Gore, now not only are we on game point, we're on set point if this payload goes in.
And after 2 really rocky mid-fights from Project, this is probably the best position to be in, because Carnage, they haven't had to experience your push yet. They don't know where they need to, you know, bolster up their defenses, although Ares seems to be doing a pretty good job of it at the very beginning here. Did you get the Evil Mojo out? I mean, you're already burning some ults from Carnage Gaming, which, good on them, they can recharge them, but it's definitely going to impact this next fight. Spend some of the credits you just got from the point, you come back into this, especially with something like a Spite, an In-Flame that's about to come up. There's a lot of tools for Team Project to make sure that this could turn into a win.
I agree. That's where my mindset was as well. If Team Project can swing quickly here, a lot of utility used by Carnage Gaming on only a scarce few targets. An In-Flame here. Cuscutie wants to get this payload moving. Gervin needs one final shot, unable to find it. Instead, G-Bunny runs down Androxus. Nice stun down onto his Spexy. G-Bunny starting to find his stride. Cuscutie steals away the triple, but it's Team Project who have fought their way back in. But now they're the ones using a lot of utility. No ultimates ready to go compared to a couple on the defense for Carnage.
And this is where things get just increasingly awkward, right? Now that you've used the Inflame, you've gotten back over here. You use that Spite to be able to get back over here. Well, hey, guess what? They're getting a lot of big stuns that are coming up as well when it comes down to the Seismic Crash or when it comes down to Rom being able to set this up. Also destroys the half-shell shield that comes through, so Makoa ever present in danger, a minute left, but good stagger kills coming from Carnage. It's this really awkward, at any given moment, I expect Project to just kind of let the shoe drop and all of a sudden they'll get a 5-man wipe. It doesn't seem to be going that easily for them yet.
Well, Shadow gets sniped out at the onset of that fight, and that was kind of all she wrote for Team Project. They haven't done a good job of not giving up that much ground to Carnage Gaming. They have 4 out of 5 ultimates, only that snipe is left respawning at about 60%. Tense moments here. Team Project use the ROM ultimate as well. Seismic Crash and Dragon Punch could be the tools to open up the door here. Ares, Crimson, Spexy, all up on the high ground on this right-hand side. G-Bunny doing a good job of distracting them there, plugging down just about half HP. Ares gets stunned down. Cuscutie finds a final shot. There's the go button for Team Project. Dragon Punch soaring through, finds Crimson. Off to the side of the map, 3 members of Carnage Gaming left alive, but it's a double kill for Shadow that may have put them in their grave. Team Project finds the final punch. And Gormizer, they're going to move on. They're going to play Parallax later today.
I mean, that's the statement you needed as Team Project. I would argue that maybe people were doubting them more than anyone coming into this. Like, conversations around what can Brazil do. But a lot of it was, what is Team Project going to be able to bring compared to what we've seen out of Phase 1? That's the opening statement you need. You need a 3-0 where you just punch them down into the ground. You pull out a versatile set of champions. I think that was a really good first showing for them. And again, it's not the end of the road for Carnage Gaming. They do still have that lower bracket to try and fight through.
That's right. They'll have a chance tomorrow. We'll see them tomorrow, rather, playing their game there on the loser's side of the bracket. Big wins across the board for Team Project. 3-0 in their first set. Again, a date with Parallax later today. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Absolutely. But for the third and final time, the desk will break down this set.
Man, that one was a bit closer, Dave and Gore, but ultimately still not enough. Team Project complete their sweep of Carnage Gaming and move on to face Parallax later on today. And you're going to be watching it right at home. Mackenzie's going to be watching from probably right over there because she loves to lay right there. And Kresnik, your cats are going to be watching from right next to the TV. You too can join the broadcast by tweeting at Paladins Pro and using the hashtag PPC to show us how you are watching the Paladins Pro Circuit Summer Finals. Kresnik, which of those cats is the bigger troublemaker? Because I feel like it might be...
It is 100% Yuffie on the right. She will bite and claw at you. As long as there's no water involved, Arthur on the left will be totally fine. But I just can't believe they're sitting in front of the TV. Do you know how many times I've had to lightly tap them off of that desk? And yet, as soon as I'm not sitting there, they're somehow willing to do that right actually through that hallway. I wonder how they feel about the drafts that happened in that game, because I was so worried about Carnage, about Projects at the start, but Carnage kind of did something strange at the end with that Makoa and Pip. I don't think that Makoa did what they wanted to at all, even with the potential counter against the ROM. He went 2-13 half shell, not getting the value it would have otherwise.
No, I don't think you're having your point tank go 2-13 and having a particularly successful game unless your carries are able to stay up and alive. But this was kind of just a bloodbath game across the board. A lot of kills and deaths, and part of that is because this is our first set that didn't go really one-sided in Project's favor. But overall, only 51k damage right there from the Makoa, 128k damage taken. You look at what G-Bunny's putting out on the other side, more damage taken and the same amount of damage. I think that it's pretty difficult to see when your front end is not able to match up to the other side.
Yeah, if you take the shielding into account, it's close, but the Makoa just... If you have only one tank, he has to soak basically a little bit more than that. All that extra damage is going into your DPS, and you only have the Genos heal and an occasional off-support pip heal on the team, only 25k coming out from him. The number is slightly in their favor in that sense, but it's just so spread out. Rock Monkey and Shadow, I feel like we're just dominating. You expect Gervin to hard counter Shadow. You think Androxus into Drogos. This is a matchup that should just take Shadow out of the game. But he's hitting all these directs on him, even with this higher ping, this being a Brazilian server of Carnage's map pick. The fact that Shadow is still connecting everything, all these directs, getting 1,000 damage per shot, hard countering his hard counter, he was able to just do whatever he wanted.
This shot in particular was just
specific.
Nuts. That's illegal. That shouldn't be allowed on any server, no matter what. But Shadow making it happen, even at the slight disadvantage. I just felt like Shadow in the two first point fights, Shadow was taken out a little bit more easily, and what do you know? Those are the fights that Carnage wins. After that, I feel like Shadow really hit his stride, became accustomed to where he needed to be aiming, and from there, it was kind of coffins for the other side.
Yeah, also, the ROM in the late game, he struggled maybe a little bit against the Cassie. That big game just really farms him, but once he has some more defensive cooldowns up, once he has Master Ride and can get back in a little bit faster, him being countered doesn't matter as much. He's back to soak that damage and take pressure away from what's going on to Shadow and what's going on to Rock.
With that 3-0 win, Team Project are going to move on into the upper side semifinals up against Parallax. That will be taking place after our next set, which is District 69 up against Celestial. The EU showdown coming up next here, Kresnik. Not one where you have to worry quite as much about server and map selection, and it's just about beating your other team mano a mano.
And these are the teams that have been kind of brawling out all season, all split throughout the PPC. D69 took it early, but Celestial made some changes, got Prosper back, took it really strongly against them later. I want to see how Celestial kind of fare in this tournament. It's higher pressure, and D69, all those players have been under the highest pressure imaginable.
Let's see what's going to happen there. We're going to have to take a quick break to get ready for our second set of the day, so be sure to join us quickly after taking a quick break. We'll be right back here with more Summer Finals.